We are on a 2.5-week journey through southern Africa, crossing through 5 countries, watching landscapes constantly change, and stopping at some of the most amazing places along the way. So far we've been through South Africa, Namibia, Zimbabwe, and Zambia, and have just started slowly chugging through northern Botswana's very wild Chobe National Park. This morning we found ourselves at Khwai, a campsite right at the north gate of the iconic Moremi Game Reserve on the fringes of the incredible Okavango Delta. Good morning from the Moremi Game Reserve, where we actually have water flowing for the first time in a few days, which is great. And the cool thing is that this water behind us actually comes from the Okavango River that we camped next to in Namibia hundreds and hundreds of kilometers ago. And it ends up here in Botswana and gets absorbed by all the trees and gets evaporated and drunk by all the animals, so that's pretty cool. We should see lots of animals and it should be quite an interesting experience, so let's down our coffee, have some rusks, start packing up and hit the road. Guys, this place is wild. Here's a snake skin right next to our campsite, probably 10 meters from where we're sleeping. So somewhere around here is the snake that shed that. It's a comforting thought. Wild is an understatement. We were well and truly in the thick of it now, with hippos floating right past our camp, monkeys looking to steal our stuff at any moment. Even the insects found a way into our coffee. We enjoyed a relaxed morning at camp, soaking in the sights and sounds around us, but a land cruiser crossing the Khwai River Bridge serves as a timely reminder that we still have a very long drive ahead of us, and so we get our camp packed up and do some final vehicle checks, cleaning the grass and seeds out of my radiator and wiping the thickly caked dust out of the nooks and crannies before finally hitting the road. Today's drive takes us as deep as we can possibly go into the heart of the Okavango Delta without needing a boat. A 220-kilometer journey through a very wet but very beautiful place. We start off in a westerly direction with the trees becoming thicker and greener, and we begin to see some action straight away. I have a feeling that today is going to be a very good day for game viewing.
It has been a good start and there have been a lot of game viewing purposes going past. I think we're in as well.
Yeah, it looks like we're driving along the water most of the day, so that should definitely help.
Awesome, sounds like a good day ahead.
As mentioned earlier in the video, the Okavango Delta is a really unique place because it's one of the few places in the world where a major river simply vanishes. While most rivers flow out to sea, the Okavango starts in the Angolan highlands, flows through Namibia, and empties itself out into the delta where it gives life to countless animals. We were here during the dry season, but with plenty of grass still remaining, the animals were everywhere. It's such a weird experience being in a forest with all these what looks like autumn leaves lining the ground. It kind of feels like you're in North America or Europe in autumn, and then you realize it's actually springtime and you're in Africa. And you see elephants wandering around and lechwe and all these animals that we've been seeing. It's a pretty surreal experience. Obviously in the wet season when everything gets very green, then it feels a bit more like Africa, but right now it's something I haven't experienced before in South Africa. I don't think we get anything quite like this.
Come on, leopard. Come on, kitty. Come on. I think they're around here. We'll try later again.
There's a loop coming up on the right. I think let's try and take that little loop, which will take us right close to the river, and just see what the road looks like and see what we can see.
Sounds like a plan.
So there should be a road. I think it's this one here.
This one?
Yeah. We had marked out a route on Guide GPS, but with time looking good, we decided to take some detours, bringing us closer to the water's edge, where we hope to see some bird life. This spot, called Hippo Pool, ended up being a really great find. Not only did we spot plenty of hippos here, but we saw some really interesting birds as well.
Check that bird flying across, it's so pretty.
Where's your bird book?
On my phone.
You'll see different birds you've never seen here before.
We might need to reverse over here.
The only problem with the delta is that you never quite know where you're going to come across water. The entire 220 kilometer route only has an elevation change of 20 meters, so it's basically a flat basin, and when we come across a large section of flooded road, we don't want to take any risks.
So we've taken a road here that we plan to take, which in the dry season should in theory be dry, but we're seeing a lot of water up ahead and very few tracks. And I have a feeling that it's probably a little bit risky coming through here. Yes, it'll save us time, but if we do get stuck, it'll lose us time. So I think we're going to turn around and take a slightly safer road.
We choose a slightly different route, and the decision is vindicated as we come across what was probably my favorite sighting of the whole day. A forest of dead trees, swamped with water, and teeming with animals. The next big landmark is Xakanaxa, a camp on the northwestern edge of today's route. This is a camp that we really wanted to book, being as far into the delta as you can go, but unfortunately it was full. It was nice to be able to drive through here though and tick it off the list.
So this whole area here, Xakanaxa as it's called, is pretty deep into the delta. It's as far as you can really drive into the delta, especially in the wet season. And essentially this road comes around a slightly elevated point, but there's like reeds all around, there's water all around, marshland with hippos and storks and water birds everywhere. So it's not a very pleasant place to drive through in terms of the road condition. You get shaken around like a ragdoll, like I am right now. Very slow going, but it is nice to see something different. This is much more sort of marshy than we get to see in other parts of the drive today. And yeah, I think it was worth the detour for sure.
What the heck just happened? Did you get that on camera? Okay, sounds angry. I'm not gonna stay around with an angry elephant.
From Xakanaxa, the road takes us southwest towards the Third Bridge campground, where we'd be crossing a number of famous wooden bridges. Fourth Bridge, Third Bridge where the camp is obviously located, Second and First Bridge. This area between Xakanaxa and Third Bridge is extremely green and full up with animals, so needless to say, we stopped quite a few times to enjoy the scenery.
We've stopped at a place that's marked on the GPS as the Wild Dog Den. I'm sure there were wild dogs staying here at some point, because there's signs of animals being munched right over here. And we've seen a few little dog poops lying around. Wild dogs are one of the animals that I really wanted to see here, but yeah, I guess we'll have to keep driving because they wouldn't just hang around the den all day. They'd probably
come here to rest and stuff, or be here every now and again. So this is the nature of game drive. Sometimes you see the things you want to see, sometimes you don't, but either way, it's cool to know that there are wild dogs around. So this is the famous third bridge at the Marimi Game Reserve, and I believe this bridge is relatively new. That's the old one over there, and when there was a flood season a little while back, I think the water came down here so strongly that it just washed it away. So they built a new one, and we're going to take a quick picture halfway before we move on. After passing through Third Bridge, the road turns southeast, and at this point, the road definitely starts to deteriorate. The sand becomes very soft in places, and the route is a lot windier, which makes the drive feel way longer than it looks on a map. The bumping around also became pretty rough, most likely because of people driving through here with tires pumped too hard and digging up ruts in the sand. But that's just one of those things you have to deal with out here, and it's all part of the fun. You can see just how soft the sand was. It almost felt like driving through a dune field. You kind of just have to sit in low second or low third and slowly cruise along.
Okay, go very slowly onto this log here.
Oh snap.
Just use low range.
Low first.
Go first, just crawl up.
That's not crawling.
Okay, well, hold on,
We stuck.
hold on, just lock. Okay, try now, slowly.
I can't go any slower than that.
Okay, you're gonna need to try get a little bit of momentum, go back a little bit.
I think we've broken the bridge, haven't we?
No. Okay, now go a little bit of momentum.
And forward.
Yep. There you go.
We came across a bit of a traffic jam at a water crossing. There was a group of guys from Portugal in rental 4x4s who were looking for a good place to cross. We waded in to check the depth, found a place that seemed safe, and eventually the whole convoy began to move forward. With the Okavango Delta now behind us and the ground drying up a bit, the game sightings began to slow down a bit too. We did spot this group of elephants playing in the mud, and I'll say this about elephants. You think of them as these sentient, majestic beasts, but there's nothing majestic about these calves depositing themselves in the mud. Deep down inside, they all just want to have some fun. We'd been waiting for a nice shady baobab to show up so that we could park off for lunch, and eventually we get our wish. This is becoming a regular thing here in Botswana. We hadn't had many opportunities to leave the vehicles today, so food aside, we definitely enjoyed this stop. But all good things have to come to an end, and we're soon off once again. Well, lunch was great, but we have a very long way to drive still. We've probably only done a little bit over a third of the day, and it's already almost 2 p.m. So it's going to be a long day. So probably not much filming over the next little bit. We're probably just going to put our foot down and try and cover as much ground as possible. It's a bit of a sad moment as we pass through the Moremi South Gate and leave this incredible park behind us. The rest of the journey goes much quicker, especially on this last stretch towards Maun, when the sand turns to tar for the first time in a couple days. The town of Maun is only the 5th largest in the country, but is most certainly one of the better known towns, being the tourist capital of Botswana and the gateway to the Okavango Delta. Many people fly into Maun and then rent a 4x4 for self-drive safaris through the Okavango, through the Makadikari Pans, and into the Kalahari Desert. We had to pass through Maun to get to our camp spot for the night, but there was one place that we really wanted to stop. A butchery called Beef Boys that a group of campers we'd met had told us about, and we were not disappointed. This place had some of the best meat I'd ever seen at some of the lowest prices. 34 pula for the steak. Now we're talking. On the southern side of Maun, we find ourselves back in the bush again. We'd booked a campsite at a place called Sitatunga, and I'd highly recommend staying here. It was very affordable and one of the nicest places that we stayed on the whole trip. After a long day of driving, we set up camp, made use of the nicest showers we'd seen in weeks, and got the coffee going as we started winding down for the evening.
So we heard about nice butchery in Maun from some travelers up north, and they recommended Beef Boys to us, so we stopped in there earlier today, and again we're amazed at the prices of meat in Botswana. We picked up some very lekker espetadas. They are huge and lekker thick, and the dubbers have got themselves some nice ribeye steaks for this evening, so we're going to put them on and I'm sure we'll enjoy them. Amba.
It did sort of feel that the Okavango portion of our tour had come and gone way too quickly. There's just so much to explore in this area, but with the really high cost of staying in the parks and with plenty more to see in Botswana over the next few days, we can only look ahead to what the rest of the tour would hold. Over the next few episodes, we'll be leaving the green oasis of the Okavango and heading east towards Botswana's famous salt pans. First up would be Khwai Pan and Bain's Baobabs, which was one of my favorite spots on the whole tour and the location of some of our most intense animal encounters. From there, we'd be crossing the biggest salt flats on earth, the Makadikari Pans, and camping on an island that you may recognize from a very famous episode of Top Gear, before the long journey back to South Africa. There's still plenty of adventure to come, so make sure you've subscribed, and we'll see you next time.